fog slithered through the black forest of Bavaria like a living thing, thick and suffocating, pressing down on everything in its path. The wind didn't howl, it screamed, a jagged, restless sound that burrowed into your ears and refused to leave. Amid that darkness, the pounding of hooves on frozen ground was the only break in the silence. Johann, a weathered huntsman with a face carved by years of hardship, rode hard, clutching his son Leon to his chest. The boy was feverish, drenched in sweat, his half-open eyes fixed on something in the mist, something Johann couldn't see. Leon whispered in a trembling voice, "Papa, he's calling me. He says I have to go." Johann gritted his teeth and muttered, "You're delirious, son. It's just us and the forest." But when he glanced down, Leon's pupils were wide, staring into a void that seemed to swallow the light. Suddenly, the horse reared back wildly, nearly throwing them both. Johann gripped the reins with all his strength, but his heart hammered against his ribs. A voice rose from the fog, soft and insidious, like a lullaby sung from beneath the earth. "Leon, come to me, there's no pain here." Johann froze. The sound wasn't human, it echoed with a hollow resonance as if it came from a cave, yet it felt close, too close, right behind his ear. "You can't keep him," it murmured, now inside his skull. Leon whimpered and reached out into the mist, his small hands trembling as if something tugged at him. Johann shouted, "Stop it," but his voice sank into the fog, devoured by the forest itself. The mist thickened and took shape, an elongated, gaunt figure emerged, the Erlkönig. He loomed tall, crowned with broken branches that jutted from his head like blackened veins. His eyes were two white hollows, not alive, not dead, but something in between, pulling at your soul like a vacuum. His cloak was woven from decayed skin and sodden leaves, and with each step, the ground shuddered, cracking with the sound of snapping bones. He extended a skeletal hand toward Leon, its yellowed claws glinting like they'd been freshly unearthed from a grave. Johann drew his sword and lunged, roaring, "Stay away from my son." But the blade sliced through nothing but mist. The Erlkönig laughed, a deep, guttural sound that felt like it shattered the air, locking Johann's breath in his chest. A frigid, razor-sharp wind coiled around him, ripping Leon from his arms. Johann clawed forward, but his fingers grasped only emptiness. In that final moment, Leon turned to him, his eyes were gone, replaced by broken mirrors reflecting endless black. Then the mist swallowed him, leaving behind a faint, unending wail that hung in the air. Johann spurred the horse in a frenzied gallop until he reached the village. He collapsed to his knees, screaming, his hands empty and his mind flooded with the image of those white eyes. The villagers gathered but said nothing, their faces pale with dread. From that night on, those who stray into the forest swear they hear a cold whisper calling their name. And sometimes, in the depths of the fog, they glimpse a shadow with a jagged crown, the Erlkönig, ever waiting, never satisfied. Deep in the forsaken valleys of the Alps, where the sun barely dared to rise, a desolate village lay buried under a shroud of black snow and jagged ice. The trees stood gnarled and lifeless, as if they'd tried to flee some unspeakable horror and frozen mid-escape. In that dead silence, the name Krampus wasn't whispered as a tale, it was a curse, a summons for something no one could outrun. Krampus wasn't just a monster, he was a blight, a thing born from the rot of human sin. His skin was cracked and blackened, like scorched earth, dripping with long, matted hair soaked in a dark, viscous fluid that reeked of spoiled blood. His horns twisted upward, rusted and sharp, as if they'd clawed their way out of his skull. His yellow eyes weren't lights in the dark, they were pits, bottomless voids that devoured any soul foolish enough to meet their gaze. The chains dangling from his limbs didn't jingle, they scraped, a grating screech that gnawed at your bones. In that village lived Maria, a widowed seamstress who'd lost faith in everything God, the devil, and especially the old legends. On the night of December 5th, while others hid in their homes, clutching candles and muttering prayers, Maria sneered. Krampus? A load of nonsense to scare fools. With a mocking laugh, she snuffed out a candle and flung her window wide open to the pitch-black forest beyond. Come on then, if you're real. The air turned frigid, not from cold, but from a dead weight that seemed to suck the life from the room. Maria's breath grew thick in her chest. A stench rose, rotting flesh and rusted metal. From the distance came the sound of chains, not slow or rhythmic, but a frenzied, maddening scrape like a drumbeat for an execution. She turned and a shadow danced on the wall, not human, but alive, writhing, stretching longer with every flicker of the dying fire. The door didn't just open, it exploded inward, splinters raining through the air. Maria stumbled back, but her feet felt nailed to the floor. Krampus stood there, not in the doorway, but inside, as if he'd clawed through reality itself. His breath was a plume of black vapor, and his mouth gaped wide, jagged, broken teeth jutting from bleeding gums. "You called me, Maria?" His voice rasped, a scream muffled from the bottom of a well. "Now I take you." The chains lashed out like serpents, coiling around her body, not just tearing her skin, but sinking into her flesh, fusing with her bones. She screamed, but the sound drowned in the house, swallowed by walls that seemed to pulse with hunger. Krampus opened a sack, a tattered, blood-stained thing that whimpered and scratched from within. Maria fought, clawing at the air, and in one final act of defiance, she locked eyes with him. There was nothing there, no rage, no malice, just an endless black, and in it, her own face stared back, decayed, mouth gaping in an eternal shriek. Then, nothing. When morning crept in, pale and weak, Maria's house was a ruin. The walls bore deep gouges, as if something had tried to claw its way out from the inside. The floor was streaked with black stains no one dared touch. A neighbor who'd watched from afar later swore that as Krampus dragged her away, her screams didn't stop. They just faded, sinking deeper and deeper, as if the earth itself had claimed her. Now, every December 5th, those who pass near the wreckage say they hear the scrape of chains in the wind. And sometimes, when the night is still, a faint, endless scream echoes from nowhere, a reminder that Krampus waits in the shadows, hungry for the next fool to call his name.